Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the In the 11 podcast. I am your host, Brendan Griffiths, and this is the show where we bring on those from the world of football to show you what it takes to be in the 11 at the highest possible level. This week's guest, a former teammate of mine from Darmstadt, Germany, Evan Kostylev, is in the 11 and is actually back in Germany right now and did this interview with me from his apartment in Bremen. So really cool story of his come up in the game, his commitment, his work rate. He is one of the hardest working players that I've been around in my time. And it's cool for me to see him now, playing at a level, at a league kind of where we mentioned it in the episode, but where we always kind of would sit around and talk about, I feel like I could play there one day. I feel like I could play there. And now he's actually there and doing it, and hopefully more good news for him to come in the future with his career. So I will kick it over to myself and Evan, and I hope you guys enjoy this one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, coming to us currently from Bremen, former teammate of mine, another fellow Darmstadt alum. I appreciate him taking the time out of a schedule in the Oberliga to come on and chat his story. But Evan, thanks for joining us.
What's up, everyone watching? What's up, Brendan? Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice. We were kind of reminiscing there before we started recording. I think this is going to be a fun one for all the stories that we have from Darmstadt days and then beyond.
Definitely a fun one, yeah.
Yeah. Let's take it back a little bit before we get into that, though. So I know that you are Russian, and I also know that you grew up predominantly in New York City, if I'm not mistaken. Or were you born in Russia and then moved over, or?
My parents are from Russia, both of them. They came over in the early 90s, and they had my sister, then they had me, and I lived in New York my whole life. I'm a New Yorker, Brooklyn, that's me, yeah.
Gotcha. So what was it like growing up playing football in New York City?
How can I even explain what it's like? It's probably like the most diverse football like place you can probably play in, because everywhere you go in like the world, there's like a sort of like a specific kind of like understanding of how football should be. But America is probably the only place in the world, well, maybe not the only place, but one of the places in the world where there's so much diversity. There's so many different people from all over the world, where you have one coach telling you one thing, another coach telling you another thing, people on the street saying, no, do this, and then they're just all over the place. It's everything. Like, you pick up so much information, but there's also so much like bad things you have to just not like listen to at all. It's interesting. It's really interesting.
So for you, like, I'm curious about the kind of makeup of how football worked there, right? Like, was it a lot for you? Was it a lot of kind of playing more like pickup and like just like kind of mixing all these different cultures and like playing with a lot of different people, or were you in like a more structured club environment, like from early on? Like, what was your experience sort of getting into the game, and then as you kind of progressed up older and older?
So when I was 7 was the first time I actually played for a team, which is, I think, like right about like perfect timing for when you should start playing in a structured environment. Before that, though, I just kind of played in like in the park with like some random kids, just like kicking the ball around. And then eventually, my parents were like, "Well, you suck at basketball. You're not the best like karate or like judoka. So like, let's just go throw you into soccer. We'll see what happens." And I played for this Spanish team, ABC Soccer. If anyone actually knows this team, like, legend, because we had one of my favorite coaches of all time. He was from Ecuador. He played in the Ecuadorian Premier League, and he just like held standards since you were 7 years old. Just standards all the time. Like, for example, if you just have your shirt not tucked in, he just pull you aside and go, "Are you a player? Do you want to play soccer in your life? So look like a player at the very least." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay, yeah." And like, those are the kind of things that I would that's how structured it was for me since I was 7. Then eventually at like around 12 is when like you should move up to like a better team, and my parents were like, nah, you should go to school, whatever. So my team was still there, but the level kind of wasn't getting raised. So I just moved to like another team that was close by. It was recreational, just like play soccer every now and then, like twice a week in the summers. And then after that, I spent 2 years just kind of in that kind of like relaxed environment. And then 14, I was like, all right, I'm kind of done scoring 6 goals a match and like getting 5 assists in like a rec match. Let's go, do something.
Yeah.
So I tried out for this team called Silver Lake, and that's like at the time it was like pretty big on Staten Island. I did well. My parents were like, yeah, but like, come on, like you're coming home late every day. Maybe you want to go to school. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll just go to school. And then eventually I went back to that original team, just training every so often with them. Played in the Junior Cosmopolitan Soccer League, or the Cosmopolitan Junior Soccer League, and that was like the first time I played like matches when I was like 12, and I was having a blast. It was great. It was awesome. But then again, it was like, okay, you're doing well. Do you want to play for a better team now?
Yeah.
So then I try out for another team, which is like Staten Island United. It was like the kind of the big team on Staten Island. So I played U17 when I was 14, and I wasn't a big kid, but I was bigger than an average 14-year-old. So they're like, yeah, you could play up for sure. So I played with them. It was good. We went to like a bunch of tournaments. I think we played like an EDP tournament. We went like to the finals, nothing crazy. And then Boca Juniors came around. It was like the Boca Juniors like international international like academy, but it wasn't like DA. It wasn't anything official like development academy in the US. But coaching was top notch. Like coaches who played, and not just like, yeah, I played. No. It's like I have video and like photos of me playing in like the Premier League of Uruguay, Premier League of like Argentina. It was like top quality stuff. So that's kind of where like I turned, I think 15, and 15 to 17 I played there, and that's when it was just like, yeah, you can play, but now it's like the intensity has to be there as well. They taught me how to be like dirty, how to like put your elbow into a player's chest when they're getting too like annoying, like that kind of stuff. Like it's really at the next level, like what it really is, like at the professional level, the kind of football that's being played there. So they taught me a lot of that. It was great. We won like I think 2 tournaments. It was awesome. And then after that, my parents were like, okay, so soccer is, yeah, you're doing good in like this like little microcosm you have, but you want to do something with it. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I don't think you should. You should go to college. So education was like always the most important thing for my parents. So you can say that was a big part of why I chose to go to college. So that was after that I was like, okay, I actually didn't even apply to any colleges. I wanted to go to the Army because I wanted to, be the rebellious kid, my parents. So I wanted to go to the Army. This is actually a like unbelievable story. I'm doing like ROTC training, like recruiting officers training camp. I'm doing all this like stuff like just before you get into like the basic training for the Army. And my officer is like, okay, so you're going to come in on Monday to sign the paperwork. And this was on a Thursday. On Monday, come in, sign the paperwork, and you're good to go to the Army. I go, okay, awesome, great. That was a Thursday. The very next day, Friday, I get a phone call from a strange number. Like, I have no idea what it is. And it's a college, Berkeley College of New York. And, hey, is this Evan? I'm like, yeah, who's this? Like, what is this weird number calling me? It's like, hey, my name's also Evan. And this guy's name is Evan, like, Woodhouse. And I'm like, okay, great. What do you want? He's like, so I'm like the recruiting officer for like for the soccer team of Berkeley, whatever. Do you want to play for us? Because we saw your highlights and everything from Boca Juniors. We're looking to get some players. I said, okay, I'm trying to go to the Army. And he goes, okay, hold on. Speak to your parents about it. Get back to me on Monday before you go to that recruiting office for the Army. I go, okay, sure, whatever. I speak to my parents. My parents are like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. All right, let's go. Go to college. Please. I'm like, all right, fine, fine. I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was like in tears because she thought like I was gonna go to the army and like risk my life or something. She's like, thank God you're going to college. And then anyway, fine. I decided to go to college. That college experience was absolutely like dreadful. Like
Really?
I was working. I was playing for the school. I was living with my friend because it was like closer to like the train station to get to the school itself.
Mhm.
And I was doing the schoolwork obviously, and it was like a hour and a half commute there. So I wake up at like 5:30 in the morning, get to school at like 8, and then from 8:30 to 2, I'd have classes, and then after that, I'd have to go straight to the training pitch, like run to the training pitch because like all my other friends were like older and they had like better like choices for their classes. So
Mhm.
my class my class ended like 30 minutes right before training started. I had to like run to the train. If I didn't make the train, I'm late to training. So after training, I'd have to take a train all the way back to Staten Island. This is from Manhattan. A train, then to a ferry, and then I had to go to work for like 2-3 hours, and then after that, I'd have to do schoolwork. So that was 4 times a week like that, and that was absolutely dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. I finished with a 3.7 GPA in my first semester, and I just
Wow.
burned out. I go, honestly,
Yeah.
college thing, not for me. My parents are like, are you sure? Think about it. So I was like, all right, I'll think about it. Over the winter break, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm just gonna drop out, whatever. But then my coach spoke to me and he's like, if you drop out, you won't be anything in life. Like, you need to stay in this program for 4 years. He's like, you're not going to be a pro soccer player. I know what's in your head. I'm like, oh my God, please. I'm just trying to like figure out things right now. And he's like pressuring me so hard to like stay in this program because his program actually was 0-16 the season before I came. And the season that I came, we went to the semifinals of our conference. So like big difference, like very big difference from me and a few other players that came.
Yeah.
And he wanted to keep this team together and like win something.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's more things in college than just playing soccer. So after that, I was like, all right, dropped out of college, went to work full time, did a lot of like weird things. Like at one point, I was working at a basically I would import and like cats from like other countries into the United States for like friends and relatives who like wanted pets, but they didn't have like for some reason they just couldn't get them in. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll do it for you. And I would just get a couple bucks here and there from friends and family. It was actually pretty funny. Importing, exporting cats. Yeah. And then after that, the next part was really football project.
So when was the part for you where like you really figured out, okay, like this is what I want to do. I want to go into football like more full time? Because it kind of sounds like there were some moments when you were growing up and playing where like you had a little taste of it, but then obviously like there was the army desire, and then college kind of like almost beat that out of you a little bit. And then like where's the moment where you kind of flip that switch? Because I think a lot of players have that where it's like they flip that switch and like this is what I'm doing, and now I'm going to dedicate myself to this.
It's hard to say really because since I was maybe like 8 years old, I've always been like, regardless of what I was doing, like school, in high school, I like even before high school, I was like a very rather serious musician. I played guitar, I played like the double bass. I was like very serious into music, but that was like always like just like kind of in the background in terms of football. Like football was always there, always there. And then my parents were like always trying to guide me away from it in a certain way, but just always there. Like there's no way like you could like, even at 12, once my parents were like, all right, let's have a serious sit down with him. You're not going to go anywhere with soccer. I'm like, okay, great. Awesome. And then they eventually had to like be calling me to make sure that I wasn't training. Like that's how like it went to that point. Like, are you at home? Like you said you'd be? I'm like, yeah, I'm at home. And then I'm just kicking a ball against the wall or like playing with my friends. Like it went to like that point, like with them. They just really
Yeah.
thought that like this is like not the right path for me to be going on. But it's always been there. Like it has. I never had like that point where I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna really switch it on and start training. For me, it's always been like, yeah, like we're training. I've trained with professional players since I was 14 years old. Like it's just like I've always been in that environment. Like it's always been there. I never had like a moment really.
And that's why I'm so fascinated. I was asking you about like kind of what it was like playing in the city, because I feel like, you know, and this might sound silly, but I've always been curious about it, because I think like for someone like me, right, who grew up in the suburbs and lives in a place where like I can drive 2 minutes or like go and find a field or like a nice turf field or a grass park or somewhere, like I feel like because of the way the city works, like there's a little bit more of an element of like for you to go and train at like the level we know that you need to in order to try and become a pro, like you sometimes have to a little bit get creative with like finding fields or finding space to actually like put this in, because there's so much like you know, like everything's just buildings and concrete, right? And then I wonder too if on like the other side of that, you growing up having kind of that pushback from your parents of like this isn't really what we want you to do, and then also to have that experience with your coach like in college being like you're not going to amount to like this, like it's almost like I feel like you had a lot of obstacles in your way trying to get towards your dream, but you just have this resolve of like, nope, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going forth. Do you think that's like something really important for somebody who wants to be a pro in like in this sport specifically, to have like just that unwavering kind of, nope, this is where I'm going. It doesn't matter what other people are saying from the outside.
Like I think that's probably the most important thing in my opinion, because when I was back in the States, I think in earlier this year, I got offered to coach for New Amsterdam FC, but because of some issues, we were actually supposed to play in Nisa. Because of some issues, though, like we couldn't actually play in the league, and the director of the team, who's like unbelievable guy, like this is probably like my favorite person in football. He said, listen, like, I like you a lot, the way, like, you talk. I like the way that, like, you present yourself. I like the way that you speak with people. Like, you're respectful and everything. And you're also driven. Do you want to at least coach for us in the meantime while we don't have, like, a professional team? I said, yeah, if you want, of course, I'm down. And so, basically, like, what would happen is, like, you find ways to, like, get into places. You find ways to like get into the right positions. Like because of that coaching thing, I'm in Germany. He's like, I like the way like you coach. I like the way that like you do everything, and I'll help you do whatever you want in football, anything you want, just because I was put in the right position. So going back to it, like for example, in the city, I lived in an area that got hit really hard by Sandy, like very hard by Sandy. So. We actually weren't. There was a massive grass field called Miller Field, and we weren't even allowed to train on it because it was completely dirt, and the parks department had to reseed it. Like it was completely dirt, like completely sand, dirt, disgusting. You couldn't play on it, and we would get kicked off the field all the time for playing on it. Like during when it was like getting like regrown back into like half decent condition, and the only turf field that was in the area was like you know how like when water gets underneath turf, it kind of raises, and when there's sand being carried by the water, it comes underneath and it turns into like a bunch of bumps on the turf rather. So it would turn into like it was like you couldn't play on it. It was completely unplayable. Like you twist your ankle just walking on it. So we had to get creative. We just played on the beach. It was like the middle of winter. We'd be playing soccer on the beach, like anything just to play. And then eventually, like, this pro player comes around from Montenegro, Bledi Bardic. He also played for NAFC later, though. At the time, he was training with New York City FC, with David Villa, Frank Lampard, Andrea Pirlo. Like, he shared a locker room and, like, shared training sessions with them. So, like, that experience was just, like, sharing, basically, like, shaking someone's hand who shook their hand on the daily basis was, like, whoa. Crazy. Yeah. So we would always train. We'd get creative. We'd train on the beach. We'd just run. We'd do like crazy stuff. Like we had this guy, Chamo, who was probably like this is like he kind of instilled the drive to like be a pro into you. Like he'd say, "Okay, great, yeah, you don't have a team right now because of COVID, because of Hurricane Sandy. Awesome, it doesn't matter. You still have to train, right?" So he'd tie like we'd get like a chain. We'd like tie like put like a bike lock on a chain and tie like a tire behind our back and just like do sprints on the beach like while juggling a ball like ridiculous crazy stuff, but just finding ways to bring out drive, because if you just sit there and kind of wait for things to happen, nothing will happen. But if you at least are working, I know for a fact something, when the chance comes, you will be ready for that chance. So even when COVID happened and I had to come back to the States, I was still training with that psycho coach, because he would make you do just like he'd make you do like we'd be running like 10 miles on the sand, and then out of nowhere he'd be like, "All right, sprint," and you're like, "What?" And everyone just sprints, and you're like, "Oh shit, you gotta fucking go," because like it's just go sprint, and you're like, "Okay, I'm sorry." Like it's just that like mentality of like it doesn't matter how, doesn't matter when, doesn't matter what, just you always have to be ready for that chance that comes. And that's what football is in my opinion, because it's never perfect, it's never good, there's never gonna be a perfect chance for you.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Football is like it's a difficult thing where you have to have that resolve and that work ethic without ever kind of really knowing if it's going to pay off, right? Like you kind of just have to keep your head down and keep working to an insane level. And then, like you said, hopefully you've done enough to put yourself around the right people, put yourself in the right environments. And then again, it's like there's a lot of luck that goes into it too. Is something going to click? It's so different than other careers in which all right, if I get this degree and I apply to X amount of jobs, I'm probably going to eventually get into that field. Like football is just so different to that. Was like the football project experience for you after going to college? Was that one of the first places where you felt like you had put yourself in one of those environments to kind of springboard yourself to your next opportunity?
Yeah, so actually we had I went to one football project trial, and I just got torn down. They were like, "Yeah, not good enough." Like I asked them like upright, like, "Do you think I can play somewhere?" And they go, "Sloppy. Yeah, you're intense and you have like the physique, you have the fitness, but it's just sloppy, sloppy, sloppy." And that was at the time a person who would later end up like kind of dragging my career through the dirt a little bit. Actually, that same person's calling me sloppy. So I think he had like a vendetta against me from the very beginning, but everyone else is like, "No, I think you got something here. Like you can do something." But he put me into a position, actually, incidentally. He got me training with a collective of people who train in New Jersey. So out of state, I would take a bus, like what is it, like hour into the city, and then like another hour into New Jersey, just to get to training for 10 in the morning. Like, so it was crazy stuff. But he put me in a position where he's like, "If you want, you can train with these guys, but I'm not sending you to Europe." And these guys actually, it was this guy named Marin. They actually have a team now in the EPSL called the Carney Scots. So they would train 5 days a week, no games, just training 5 days a week, technical, general kind of like football, like they'd make you think about football instead of having you just do drills like and beat things into your head. Like the coach there was Marin. He played a huge part. Like I think he kind of burned a bridge with me. I don't think he likes me all that much right now, but in general, he was probably I have nothing but good things to say about him. Absolutely nothing but good things to say about him. Great guy, intense. The sessions, he would make you like squeeze every single little bit of focus, every single little bit of like intensity and energy out of you, because like he knew that's the only way for you to get any better. And he could make a player with like 2 left feet make it like become like an excellent coordinated player. He could make something out of nothing. He's one of those guys, and that's why I absolutely adored him. So yeah, that was like probably my first coach, was like football isn't just being intense. Football isn't just being like dirty when you have to be dirty. Football can be beautiful. Football can be smooth and technical. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So he kind of put that into me a little bit. Yeah, I really like that guy. He's great. And that was through Football Project.
And I know we're kind of speaking about it. I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't really know like what it is. Can you put a little more context into like what kind of the Football Project even is?
So I'm actually not even working with the Football Project anymore, because the person who I work with now rather, and the Football Project, they're two different people. They split. At the time though, when I just joined into them, it was one big organization. It was one like honestly, just they would send players to Europe who wanted it, who had it, just guys who would never have an opportunity anywhere else. He'd send them off to Europe. Like this one kid also from Staten Island, Manny, who this kid is just like he went to play football in Germany, came back, COVID happened, tried out for a bunch of teams, decided like, I like football, but not enough to suffer this much. I'm just going to move to Atlanta, do my own thing. And he's having the time of his life now. He's doing good for himself. But that kid would have no chance anywhere. Just some random kid from Nigeria who's living in Staten Island now, who played one semester in college, just like me. Like, he'd have no chance to play anywhere. Like, absolutely nothing. Nobody would, like, stick their neck out for him. Football Project stuck their neck out for him. It was like, I think it was a great organization for what it was at the time.
Yeah. So how did that first interaction with them, and then kind of, as you mentioned, training with the guys in Jersey, like how did that all lead up to you eventually getting an opportunity to go over to Europe?
Basically they would bring in scouts from they brought in scouts from Italy, they brought in scouts from Germany. And the scouts would say, yeah, we like this kid, send him over. And one time they brought over these scouts from Germany, FCA Darmstadt. It was scouts. That's what we thought at the time. But it was actually the owner of the team and his two sons. So they actually came to just kind of watch us play. And I did very well. And they're like, yeah, we like you. Come over. And they're like I was like playing like the practice match, whatever. And then during the practice match, they go, hey, come here. I go, hey, what's up? He goes, hey, we're really excited to meet you. We're really excited to work with you. You should come to Germany with us. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. And then right after that, I get like a phone call from Football Project and they go, hey, so they really like you. Do you want to come over to the team? And I go, well, when do I have to be there? And they go, well, in a week. And I go, oh, that's a tough decision to make. It's it's like a massive decision to just go from playing soccer in New York and just kind of like working soccer or whatever, figuring things out, to, hey, you have to move your whole life to across the pond and figure things out over there. And I had a week to decide. And I was like, well, spoke to my parents. They're like, you sure this is good for you? I'm like, yeah, like this is what I want to do. All my friends are like, so you're leaving in a week? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, this guy, man, like, come on, like we didn't even hang out or anything. I'm like, I'm sorry, like I wish I could, but I gotta go. So yeah, that like they gave me a week to decide. I decided and I went over, and that was the beginning of FCA Darmstadt, really. That experience.
Isn't it? I wonder if you like, I'm sure the players that you talk to and also just in your experience alone, I feel like so many times I hear that exact, like, I got a call and in 2 days I was on a plane somewhere, right? Or like I got a call and the next week I had to move my whole life to like New Zealand. Like it's funny how, in the same way how we were describing before, it's like you work and you work and you work without really the promise of anything sometimes, right? Where you're just waiting for that. Usually when that call happens, it happens so quick. Like you can be like working what feels like for a year, and then all of a sudden you have a call and it's like, okay, you've been working. Are you really ready? And you're like, yeah, I am. Okay, well, decide because you need to get here tomorrow. It's funny just how like in some ways football you feel like can move so slow when you're in that period where you're like waiting for an opportunity. And then like you said, as soon as the one comes in, all right, do you want it or not? Because it's got to happen right now.
It's actually funny you mentioned the fact that like when you're actually just going and doing the things in football, you feel like, I mean, this is my personal opinion. You mentioned like you work for a year and then you get a phone call and then everything's like speeds up so quickly, right?
Yeah.
I'm 22 right now, and the way that I think about football is like, realistically speaking, if I want to play for like any club I would like to play for, I'm not talking Chelsea. We're being realistic. I'm not going to play for Chelsea. I'm not going to play for Real Madrid, whatever. But any club that I would like to play for, about at like 23, 24 is the age when you have to kind of like already be in the vicinity of those teams, right? So I'm 22, and I'm kind of thinking like, I don't have that much time. But if you look, 24 hours in Germany goes by so slow.
Yep.
So the amount of time is like quite literally super relative, because 2 years, it doesn't seem like that much time, but when you kind of like bring it down to like a certain, like, just a fraction of that year, it's like, wow, that was actually a long time. So the fact is, I have this much time, but I think I have this much time. It's
Yes.
crazy. Like, you really work for a year, you feel like you worked for like a week, but it was like super intense, and you get a phone call and you're like, oh my god, okay, let's go. It's really a roller coaster.
Yeah, I'm curious if you felt the same thing. Like, for me, I felt like as I got later into my career, I felt like in the same way that we were talking about before, how like people would have opinions about us trying to like play football, right? Like, oh, is that the best thing you want to do? Are you sure you want to do that? I almost had to like drown that out in the same way that I drowned out the way that a lot of people in football like talk about time or talk about age, right? Because that's what's so, I think, it really messes you up sometimes as a person. Like, you are having conversations with people in football where you're like, yeah, I'm 22. And they're like, ooh, wow, you're kind of, like, and it's like, I'm 22. I'm so still young. And like you said, your career can change in the blink of an eye. So what's the point in me thinking like, oh, I'm getting older, I'm not going to be able to like really do this? Like, you almost have to drown that out as well, because you can get consumed by that. And all these people that are telling you like, oh, well, now you're 25 and you haven't played it. Like, why are you still chasing it? It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, we're chasing something that's so insane. And so, yes, I understand how, like, when we talk about, oh, well, Jamie Vardy didn't make it till the Prem until what age, or I can't remember his name, but the guy who just like a year or two ago started playing for Milan and was like the Brazilian guy who worked up his way through like Serie D and everything, and didn't premiere in Serie A until he was like 25. Like, in the same way that it's so crazy that we're even going to try and play football, it's also like just as crazy for us to be able to do it at 22, 23, 24. So there's so much of it you just have to like not listen to all the extra noise and just be like, nope, okay, like, I'm going to get there, and it doesn't quite matter what the extra opinions are.
Like, my favorite conversation that I had regarding that was, again, on that field that was like covered in like bumps and stuff, just training. And this Polish guy walks up to me and he goes, oh, like, everyone knew each other in the neighborhood who played football and everything. Everyone had like a nephew who played for Red Bulls. Everyone had like a nephew or like a brother or a cousin who played for like second or first league somewhere. So he goes, oh, hey, listen, bud, how old are you? And I go, well, this is when I was 18. And he goes, oh, 18. And you're going over there? And I was like, what? Okay, thanks. Like one of those. I was like, okay. Now looking back at it, I'm like, that's actually hilarious, because like this guy, like, he's never played anywhere. He has no like there's no like there's no basis of him like saying like, well, statistically speaking, 18. No, it's just like, 18's late. Nah. I'm like, okay, great, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah. And in a way, it's actually why I'm slightly grateful, like, that I am coming from the American perspective when I went over to Europe, because I think the European perspective even more. Like, you talk to Germans and they're like, we say to them, like, I'm trying to play football. Like, this is what I'm trying to do. And they're like, how old are you? And you're like, 22, 23. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. If you're not in a Bundesliga club by like 18, 19, it's pretty much, you're done. Whereas like Americans, we still have that kind of mentality of just like chasing the dream till whenever. Like, it doesn't really matter. I think that like helped me a little bit phrase that conversation.
That's a tough. Like it's really, again, it's just part of like the American culture, like the whole dream chasing and everything. It's people live off that. Like that's the American dream essentially. Like it's a country of
Yeah.
people who are willing to chase something until they can't, until their legs give out, basically, right? Whereas in other countries, like for example, one of the coaches that I worked with at NAFC was from Germany, Tobias Esche. He's an unbelievable guy, and one of the things he told me is, why are guys in the States so like against just playing amateur football? Like you don't have to be a pro. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, but the fact is, there's always a chance that like you may play pro. Like just like the dream chasing culture is there in America. And he goes, yeah, I don't get that. It's so strange to me. And I'm just like, well, you played pro, so it's easy for you to say like, oh, why are guys just not okay with it? I'm like, well, there you go. There's your answer. And even when I was like in the States, there was a few players that I played with for a team, and they were like from overseas, like great players, like could easily play professionally, but they're like, yeah, well, by the time that I was like 22, and I got very little offers from like any teams like that are like worth playing football for. I just decided, well, if it hasn't happened already, there's no point. And really, it's just kind of like football in essence and sports in general, entertainment in general. If you put like your child into that, it means like you have surplus to a degree, right? Because you don't put a person into something that doesn't necessarily like matter. You know what I mean? So that's like a surplus kind of sport. And if you have the resources, or at least if you personally have them, like I had to work since I was 14. My parents are like, well, if you want to do this, we're not going to pay for anything, so do it yourself. So I worked since 14 years old, and I played soccer because off of my own money. And my parents, what's it called? In general, like it's, if you have the resources for it, you can keep putting yourself through that sport, or through that like, activity, or like whatever you want to call it. If you don't have the resources after about like 21, 22, and your parents are like, hey, it's time to get a job, that's when they stop, which is why I think most people stop playing football. But if you have that drive to really to play, if you want nothing to do but playing football in your life, you'll figure out a way to make the money. You'll figure out a way to get the resources. You'll figure out a way to get it done. And that's kind of where I think like the desire dies out. Like Arsene Wenger said it best. He goes, most kids after I think the age of 20, I think I might be exaggerating, but 97% of people after the age of 20 who were in top academies at 16 are not in football anymore. Not even like, not coaching, not agents, just not in football. Like they hate it. So it's a matter of like the stamina of the devotion rather than the intensity of the devotion. That was like almost a direct quote from him. So when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, this resonates. That sentence worked with me. I like that.
Yeah. It is funny too how you mentioned it's sort of the statement of like, if there's a will, there is a way, right? Like, no, every player that we've talked to, every player that we've played with that's kind of do something similar. You talk to them about some of the jobs that they've worked, or some of the things that they've done to be able to just get a little bit of money together to be able to like keep doing this a little bit. It's funny, like and even like you were saying, I know it might not coincide the same way with your journey, but like you're like selling cats basically. It's like whatever I have to do in order to like try and still be able to support myself and play, to have enough money to be able to like, because like we always kind of went into it with the mindset of like, yeah, but then when I get that contract, then I'm going to have money coming in. So it's like, this is just temporary where I'm doing this. Did you like, so I think as we're going through your timeline now, the point of your story, you're in Darmstadt now, and I know, like, I don't think any of us were really like working at that time. That was one of the times where it was like, we were just so focused on playing. It was like the first time, I know for me, where it's like, okay, this is somewhat like full-time football looks like. I know I've had other players on here from Darmstadt, but I'm curious to hear also like your perspective if you were to look back upon Darmstadt and give some of the high points and the low points.
So Darmstadt in general, I think the general consensus is one of two things: one, a scam; two, a waste of time. I don't think it was either, to be fair, because the way that I was told, the way that I was presented Darmstadt wasn't, oh, you'll go here for like 2 months and then we'll send you to like a Bundesliga academy team. That was not what was promised to me. What was promised to me was, yeah, you'll go here and you'll get a taste of what it's like to play in Europe, to live in Europe, and you'll see if you really like this thing or if you really don't like this thing. So for me, it wasn't like a scam necessarily. And definitely not a waste of time. Like, again, the football wasn't the greatest. The training wasn't the greatest, but it was what you made out of it. Because of that, because of like some of the footage, I guess, or some of like the actual like experience that I got from that, I got a trial in Spain, thanks to actually Yang. And after that, I came back to the States, and somebody who was involved in football project and left was like, I'll send you to Slovenia if you want. You improved a lot. I'm like, okay, great. Let's go. Let's do it. So for me, it wasn't a waste of time because it wasn't like a, I guess, it wasn't like the final point. For me, Darmstadt was like, it's one of the places that I'm going to be at. So it wasn't like I go here and then I go to the Bundesliga. Done. That's not how football works. And I was around enough people that told me before I left, like, don't expect this to be like the place you go and you become a star. It's not going to happen. Because again, I was in that environment with a bunch of people who like were in that environment, like were players, were at that level. So I already knew like exactly what to expect from them.
Yeah, I think, and I've spoken about this a lot on this show, that for almost everybody, your very first opportunity is going to be not everything that you hope and that you dream it's going to be, right? Like, I think I was kind of falling victim to that after leaving college and then like having this opportunity to go to Germany, thinking it was going to be, it sounds naive, obviously, to say that it's going to be anything close to like the Bundesliga, but because I knew it wasn't, but I was like, it's Germany, and it's I don't know what I thought, right? Like, but I agree with you in that, and obviously now having time removed from it, it's easy to look back and hindsight's 2020, right? But what I think the biggest thing is like Germany put me in a place that allowed me access to like the rest of Germany, the rest of the German football system. And so when I realized like about kind of September, October of that year of like, oh, like you said, they're not coming here really with the intent of like, their goal is not to move me to the club that I want to play for, right? They're just trying to build their own club. So when I realized that and was like, all right, well, I'm very close to Frankfurt, the German train system, I can get anywhere easily. Let me go and try and see if I can trial with every team that's, like in a distance of me that will have me in. And when I flipped that mentality and like realized the opportunity that I now had because of the fact that I was in Germany, and when you're sending out those emails and you're saying, it's very different when you're like, hey, I'm an American player and I'd love to come and trial for your club. And they're like, what? But then when the email shifts to, I'm an American player, I live in Darmstadt, I can go and train with your team on Thursday night, like, because I see that's where you train. Can I come in? It's a lot more an easy yes for them to be like, oh yeah, sure, what the hell? Let's see what he's got, and it's no skin off of our back, right? I think that like when I took more control of it myself, and I'm curious if you had the same experience, like when you took more ownership of it yourself, if that kind of also made the experience a little bit better for you.
See, what actually I didn't do, which is what you did great. I didn't take advantage of the fact that I was there. Looking back on it, I'm thinking like, well, I was already there. They were providing me housing. They were providing me with some food. Like, I didn't necessarily like need to even do much for all of that. And I was already in Germany. So the chances of me to just go on trial with a bunch of teams that'll just have me, like, who cares? What is the problem with having one extra player at training? Oh, we're missing someone from today because he had to go to work or something. No problem. We got some kid from America who lives in Darmstadt. We'll have him in. No big deal. If he's good, okay, we'll take him. If not, whatever. See you, bud. Nice to see you. That's it. Like, that was the situation that it was. Yeah. But I was 19. I was kind of honestly, I was very stupid at the time with what I was doing, but I didn't take that opportunity, which is I don't necessarily regret it because I think everything that I've done so far in my life has like led me to exactly where I am, and I'm living absolutely the best life that I possibly could live. So I don't regret it,
Absolutely.
but I think I could have done that a little smarter. So the players that I actually like sort of guide now, which is like kind of like my role at New Amsterdam. I'm guiding a couple players that are in Germany right now, um, that I coached in the States and I brought them here. I'm like, yeah, these are the guys that I want to see in Germany. So I'm kind of like guiding them a little bit, helping them out with like some questions they may have. One thing that I will actually want them to be doing is you're in Bremen. There's one of the biggest train stations in the area, literally 40 minutes away. You can get on a train and go to any place in Germany. Find a team that may want to like take a look at you and go. Like, what's the problem?
Mm.
So that's a huge plus that I did not take advantage of.
Yeah. But it's like you said, like I kind of even forgot at that point that you were still 19, which is always what like impresses me about like guys like you and guys like Luca and a lot of guys that were in that team. Like to do all that we did and to go through what we went through, like for you guys at 19 years old, like it's it's really amazing kind of when you think about it, like just moving to another country like as a teenager and like not only figuring out how to live but also like how to navigate football and how to navigate all these different relationships and stuff. Like it's it's kind of crazy. Like I don't know if you ever think about it like that.
I kind of lost my mind a little, to be fair. I really did. For the first like 2 months, I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm awesome. Like I've never lived in another country. I've never been to another country. I've always been to the States and like some whatever, like islands, whatever, like for vacation for like a week. But I've never been to. It was my first time in Europe ever, and then this is the first time I'm here in Europe, and I'm also alone. Yeah, I was with like a bunch of guys who are on my team, but if like something really happens, you can't go to them and you're alone, realistically speaking. So that was like a big whoa, that's crazy. So, and you have so much free time, you do kind of lose your mind a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Like I think that was also something I didn't really prepare for. Like I thought I'm going to Germany and I'm always going to be training or working out. We're going to have games. We're going to have this. We're going to have that. And then it's like you kind of get into a rhythm of it after the first couple of weeks. Once you settle down, and you like figure out what's what. And you're in like maybe September, October now, and you're like, okay, I woke up at 8, like we trained at 9 or whatever it is. Now it's 11 a.m. I have nothing for the rest of the day. And like, how am I going to fill that time? And what am I going to do to, entertain myself or be productive or whatever? Yeah. And like you said, and not go insane.
Which is also another big challenge. Like imagine if you're playing for a like kind of like an important team and that was your first time and you have to just kind of like, what do I do? That's so
Yeah.
for me. Darmstadt was like everything that I probably could have done wrong, I did there. So I was very grateful for that opportunity, honestly.
Yeah. And it led you to the opportunity to go on trial in Spain with both of our former teammates. How did that come about? Or I know before we started recording, you said that was a crazy experience in and of itself. So I'm curious to hear.
Like Liang is like me and him still kind of like every now and then we text and stuff, see how things are going. And this kid is like the fact that I shared that experience with him is awesome. So that was actually pretty funny. He, I think it was like November, and like it's the middle of the season for us in Germany. And Liang goes, Evan, you want to come downstairs with me for a second? I'm like, yeah, sure. What's up? And then it's like he like has like a secret meeting with me. He's like, yo, hey, don't tell anyone, but I'm going on trial with a team in Spain. I'm like, oh shit, good stuff, man, good for you. And he goes, yeah, but they also want a center back. I think you're the best one here. You want to go with me? And I'm like, me? He's like, yeah, man. I want you to go with me. I'm like, all right, let's go, let's do it. So, like, we get in contact with the coach together, and he's like, bring jackets, and we're like, what do you mean? I hear Spain, and I'm like, oh, like, the weather is amazing, beautiful, sunny, everything's awesome. He sends us a video, and it's like snowing, and I'm like, oh god, mountains, it's cold, it's wet, there's mountains everywhere. I'm like, wind, oh god, this is gonna be terrible. So it was in like 3 days we had to be in Spain. So of course, last minute call, you got to go across the country, across the continent. So I got on a plane. Then I take a train. We get on like different planes, different trains, whatever, and like we get there. And then he's there a little earlier, and I'm waiting at the train station in like a small like there's like one cafe and one pizza place in the whole town. Like it's that small, and it's like one of those like those flyby train stops. You kind of just like sometimes the train is like there's no one there, whatever. We're just gonna like drive by. It seemed like one of those. So we stopped there, and I get off. I'm like, all right, where am I? What is this? I'm in like the middle of like there's a street here and there's like a field on the other side. I'm like, okay, I'm in the middle of nowhere. So I just turn around. I get out of the train station, and then I'm like, yo, where you guys at? What is this? And I just see like Liang walking with some like short fat guy. And the fat guy is like so smiling, like jumpity up, and he's like, hey, how are you, Ivan? Is this you? I go, hey, what's up? And I'm just like, hey, you know this guy? Who is he? He's like, he's the director of the team. And I'm like, oh, he's very happy. Okay, cool. All right, whatever. He buys us pizza, whatever. He like shows us our apartment, and it's like a small room with like 2 beds in it, and like a water boiler like over my head in the room, like so that like boils the water for like the what's it called, the hot water in like the bathroom. It's just like a regular like a bedroom. It's just like a bedroom with 2 beds and a bathroom. There's like nothing else in it. So there was actually 2 more guys that were in like the next room, who were also trialing for the team. One of them was from I think Uruguay. Another one was from Spain, but he was like a police officer. He was just moving to this part of Spain. And it was like, I was like, all right, cool, whatever. A little interesting contingent of people. I remember like we all like went to look for breakfast in the morning. And when I mean like small town, like I mean small town. There's nothing open at 8 in the morning. So we're just walking around like, where do we even go? And there's like one cafe for the whole town. And like we walk in. Like, you hear, like, the ding, 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 like, that little thing, you know? And it's, like, one old lady running it, and then the guy next to me speaking in Spanish to her, saying, like, yeah, we're playing for the team, just the coach knows to talk to you. He's like, oh, okay, you're from Naval, da, 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 da. I'm like, all right, awesome, cool, great. We sit down, they treat us like we're, like, I don't know, like, we're kings for, like, a little bit, like, oh, smiles and everything. And then, like, I think like an hour later, we're like, yeah, okay, so we have to talk to the director. The director like comes to the same cafe because there's only one in the whole town. So he comes to that cafe. They like ask us like, do you want like paella, this food, wine? I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, yeah, let me get some paella and some sparkling water. So the Spanish wine will come later when I sign, whatever. And we're having like they asked me something in Spanish, and like my Spanish is limited. I can understand a little bit, and his English is also limited. It's like basically the same exact thing.
Yeah.
So I answered in like my broken Spanish. He goes, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Oh, you got it." And Liang is just like dying laughing because he speaks perfect Spanish. He's like hysterical at like my attempt at speaking Spanish. But like everyone's just like, "All right, this is gonna be fun. Like these are nice kids, whatever." So we go to training, and the training is like, I didn't like. He said like, oh, I was on the IBAR coaching staff. I thought he was like, I don't know, like just somebody, because everybody was somebody at some point for some club, you know. But the training was like really good, like very intense, like you had you thinking, and I was like, wow, this is nice. I really like this. The stadium was like. It was like one half of the stadium was like seating, and the rest of it was like walled off. and if you look like right behind you, just like mountains, and it was absolutely beautiful, absolutely amazing experience there. And they said, yeah, we like you guys, but so here's the thing, we can offer you a job for you to get your visa in Spain. We're like, okay, cool. What is it gonna be? And they're like, well, okay, so you have to get on a bus right after training, and it takes you to I think like a cookie factory it was, and you'll be like carrying boxes of dough or like carrying flour and like sugar and stuff and chocolate chips, and we're like, oh, and when do you guys like get off of work? And they're like 5 in the morning, so it's like from 10 to 5 or like 10 to 6. You're like working at night, and then you sleep in the day, and then you go to training. And I'm like, wow, you don't see the sun like at all. And they're like, yeah, and I'm like, that's strange. And the kind of the nail in the coffin for me that I was not going to do this was getting woken up at I think 6:30 in the morning by these two like younger players in the team. This one Moroccan kid and this one Spanish kid who played for Racing Santander in their youth academy until he was like 21. And he comes knocking on our door screaming, Policia, Policia! And I'm like scared. I'm like beyond scared. I'm in a different country. I barely speak the language. I have no idea what's going on. So I'm like opening the door, and I just see these two kids like, hey, Russo! And I'm like, you guys are crazy. What are you doing here? Liang is like, who is it? I'm like, it's these two guys. And he's like, oh, tell them to come in, whatever. They come in, they have like Jack Daniels and Sprite. And I'm like, were you guys at the club? They're like, no, we just got off work. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is how it is here. Okay, I got you. All right.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it. But also, if I'm gonna be like in the environment with these kids, I don't feel like it. It's gonna be a good vibe. So I was like, yeah, like, well, whatever, it's okay. So we fly back to Germany, and then we had like another like month left in Germany before like the winter break, and yeah, that was a long month, a very long month. I remember the guys, like the feeling, like at Darmstadt was just like, just make it through, just make it through, just make it through. And I think one of like the team talks before one of our matches, I think it was remember Nate, one of our teammates, was like, hey guys, just remember 2 more weeks and we're out of here. And everyone's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh god, this is like, it's this bad here.
Yeah. November was a tough month. Like you said, the vibe around the club in November was like, because by November, like, all the trialists had come and gone, right? It was just like mostly the guys who had been there from day one that were like these grizzled like war veterans that were like, we had just experienced too, like obviously Thanksgiving was that month, like for all the American guys. We're like, I mean, we're at the top of the table, which is awesome, but like we're at the top of the table by like however many, points. Our goal differential is like plus 100 or something absurd. And yeah, and I remember too, like, I think the last game of the season, like, kept getting pushed, and then it got canceled. So we like stayed in the country for like an extra 2 or 3 weeks with what we thought was going to be this last game. And we're like, yo, we could have left like 3 weeks ago.
I remember I left 3 days before my birthday, and everyone was like, yo, are you going to be back in time? And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, it was an interesting time of the year, honestly. That was like,
yeah, it
was the first experience with like, this is going to take a while. It's going to drag, yeah. But then after that, came back to the States, which I took like 2 weeks off. Well, I was trying to take 2 weeks off, but then everybody was like, yo, let's go. You're training. Let's go. I'm like, let me just take some time off. And all the players that I was like playing with before I left to Germany, they're like, yo, let's go. You got to train. Let's go. So I was so happy that I was in that environment of like people who were like, yeah, like we're happy for you. You went to Germany, it's great, but job's not done. Let's go. And I'm like running in the winter in New York. It's freezing. But that experience, I was like, all right, this is nice. I honestly see myself doing this for a very long time. So that like that half season of just like dreadful, slow days, whatever, like just getting through it and then coming back and then still having to work to stay in shape and stuff. That was like, yeah, I can see myself doing this. So if we're talking about a moment that kind of like brought me to be like, yeah, I should do this, was probably that. And then after that, yeah, that was good experience. I honestly loved it.
And then Slovenia, right? Slovenia is next on the cards for you for when you came back after, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I had like a weird experience with like the guy that was telling me to get fit for Slovenia. He's like, you're at this point you're 20. My birthday like just happened. He's like, you're 20. It's a good age. Like if you're gonna stay in Slovenia, you gotta lose some weight. And this was a professional player, and I'm just like, oh well, okay, I guess he's right. But I wasn't overweight. I wasn't like, there was no reason for him to be telling me this, but he for some reason thought that I was too heavy. Like he just didn't like the number that it was. I was fit, I had like a 6-pack, whatever. My like muscles were showing, everything was good. I could run forever, but he's like, I'm not liking it. You gotta get like losing some weight. So for like 2 months, I would just went on like a stupid diet, just losing weight, going like crazy fitness in the gym, and all my friends were like, you should just be like getting sharp technically. I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know why you're doing that. I was training with the football project guy, and he was like, yo, why are you listening to this guy? Just come on. You gotta like just get technically sharp. Get like your mind sharp for the trainings and stuff. And I'm like, no, I gotta lose weight. So I go to Slovenia like shredded, like absolutely shredded, like a physical monster. And at the trialists, they literally couldn't keep up with me like physically. I was just like flying, and like that's probably the reason that I showed. So that's like a big plus in the fact that like he told me like you gotta get like unbelievably fit for this. So I was doing really well, but then COVID happened. That was the worst thing. COVID. I had to fly back home. The league shut down. The team got relegated because of financial issues. Like it was awful. And then I think like 2 or 3 months, like everything was shut down. Like nobody could train, nobody could do anything. But we're in New York, we're schemers, so we'd find like the most strange ways to train. We just again like tie like bike locks around their hips just to like do sprints and stuff. We'd run on the beach for like hours. We'd like kick a ball against the wall, like and like play like handball and stuff like that. Like anything just to train. So I'm doing like a bunch of like fitness stuff. I'm getting fit, whatever. And then Michigan Stars for NISA happens, and there's like one of my friends who was a pro player at the time. He gives a call to the owner just because they're Albanian. Apparently, like they know each other. Gives him a call. Says, "Hey, listen, I got 2 players who want to come out to trial with you guys." So I go out on trial with them. I'm super fit. I'm still coming off of the Slovenia trial. And I come into that team, and I'm with like a bunch of trialists and everything. And on Monday we had like whatever, like all the trialists play against the trialists, and then the best players are like put into like training with the first team. So it was Monday. I did very well. Tuesday morning, and right after the training session, he goes, any players who want to see the first team training on Tuesday, you guys can come and just watch. But our next training session was on Wednesday. So I came Tuesday morning to watch the first team train. And the owner turns around, is like, he's watching the first team training session. He notices I'm there, turns around. And I was there with another player from Football Project, actually. And we're standing next to each other, and the owner points at us, and the kid is like a uppity like 19-year-old kid, and so he points at us in our general direction, and then he like just starts walking forward, and the guy goes no, and he points at me. I'm like, why would he want to speak to me? And he walks up to me and he goes,
Yeah.
You ever want to play pro? And I go, yes, absolutely, sir. I would love to play pro. And he goes, okay, great. Come to my office on Thursday. We're going to sign you up. Everything's going to be good. Don't worry about it. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I don't come to training on Wednesday because like I came in the morning to training. I'm like, oh, my calf is kind of like, because I had like a plantar fasciitis issue, which eventually ended up going to like my calf. I'm like, yeah, my calf is kind of seizing up. I can't really train. And I like worked with like the trainer or whatever. And then Thursday rolls around and I'm like, no call from the owner, nothing, whatever. And Friday was like a test match between like the trialists and the first team.
Mm-hmm.
So Friday rolls around. I'm like, hey, no, what contract, whatever. And he goes, we'll talk about it after the match. I'm like, oh, okay, so I got to show myself now, whatever. I do well in the match. Everything's like good. Like there's no reason for him to not take me. And then after the match, I go up to him and I go, hey, so are we going to, put pen to paper, make it happen? And he goes, I spoke to the coach and no, he doesn't like you. We got too many young players in this team. He was looking for some like leaders and I didn't see that you could do that at this age. I'm just like, so why would you like put my hopes up to here, right? And he goes, yeah, I'm sorry, but like come back in the winter, like maybe we can work something out for you. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So back on my horse to New York, training like an animal. And then that off season, like that like summer, there was supposed to be a team, New Amsterdam FC's like reserve team. So they were like picking players for that. It was like affiliated with Football Project, not affiliated with Football Project. Like it was like a weird gray area. Most of the same people that would train there were also like training with the reserve team for NAFC, New Amsterdam. So it was like weird, gray area. But I was on the outskirts. Like the coach of the reserve team did not like me. Like absolutely no shot. And I kept coming to training. I kept like pushing and like showing that like I deserve to be on this team. Like, making Instagram posts like make them see like you deserve this, that kind of stuff like that. And eventually the first team coach at the time for New Amsterdam FC said, hey, we know you guys trained this whole summer. We know you guys did all this stuff, but we're going to bring in our own guys to play for the reserve team. And that like shattered everyone. Because like that preseason was tough. It was a very hard preseason. Like the plans were to like wipe the floor with the reserve league. And we were going to do it, but they said, nah, sorry guys. We really appreciate it, but it's not going to happen. So what are you going to do now with like 20 kids who trained the whole summer, who are about to be part of a reserve team? And tough. It was tough. That was worse than being told no by Michigan Stars, I think. Because at least that was only a week of my time. But that was like a whole month of just like, the whole like 2 months of just training. So yeah, that was that. And then I think I met with this agent actually through one of my old coaches at Boca Juniors. And he's like, hey man, listen, this guy, I see like you're still like, trying to make it. He can send you out on some trials if you want, like he'll pay for everything. I'm like, really? Damn, okay, let's do it. So he sends me out to Florida, sends me out to California, sends me out to Georgia. He sees me play in Georgia. He's like, yeah, you're a good player. Like you should be playing somewhere by now. So like he's sending me out to all these like USL 1, like NISA teams and everything. And he's hearing like no. I'm hearing no. Thank you. Like we'll keep in touch. And I'm like, yo, like what do I gotta do to get on the team? He's like, I don't know what to tell you, man, but we'll try again in like the summer, I think this was. Yeah, we'll try again. And just again, like, no, nothing. And then eventually he just kind of stops contacting me. And that makes sense. Like, if you keep hearing no about a player, why are you going to keep, like, spending money on him? I didn't like, even get, like, upset with him. So, I'm playing for, like, an EPSL team, whatever, just getting minutes and stuff, playing, against, like, men, which is very important, I think. And then, yeah, I get an offer from Michigan Stars to go again to the tryout. So I go to the tryout again. And at this point, like, that injury that I had the last time I went on trial with my calf, it kind of kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse to the point where I would wake up and I would like my feet would, like, seize up and it would be, like, awful. Like, I couldn't, like, I would train through it. I'd play through it, but, like, if I, like, really had to, like, turn it on, I couldn't. Like, my feet were just killing me. It was a plantar fasciitis. It's awful. So I went on trial with them again for a week. I had, like, a terrible time. Like, it was awful. And then I remember, like, I was playing 6 at the time, and we were doing, like, an exercise on how to, like, break a press. So I get a pass from a center back. I lay it off to my goalkeeper, and right before I laid it off to my goalkeeper, one of their, like, starting, like, center mids, like, tall, long, lanky guy, he kind of, like, pushes me a little and, like, leans in to try and get the ball, like, before I lay it off, and he kind of, like, gets my Achilles, and I'm just like, I'm on the floor. I'm not hurt, but I'm on the floor, like, mad. I take my boot off, I throw it on the floor, and I just walk out. And that was it for me. I was like, I'm just done with football. I keep hearing no. I'm done. And then I get a text from the coach. Hey, we're doing running tomorrow. Let me know if you'll be there.
The Michigan Stars guy?
Michigan Stars, yeah.
Huh.
And for some reason, in my head, I'm like, nah, man, it's not worth it. Just go home. So I just went home. Like, that, I think that might have been the chance for me to actually play in Nisa, but I was like, you know what, I'm done. With football, I'm done. So I went back home, and I was just like, yo, honestly, like, I can't with this football thing anymore. So for, like, 2 months, no, it was 1 month, for 2 weeks, I just, like, went looking for jobs. I found a job in, like, a sales place. I did really well in sales. Like, I got promoted in 2 weeks' time. So for, like, 2 months, I took off of football, and I was doing really well in this sales job. And this one time, it was actually really funny. There was a speech that our team manager was giving, and he was like, so all of you guys, like, whenever you go out in the field, like working out in the field, actually working in the sales department, whenever you guys go out in the field, like, you have no right to be coming back without any sales. You keep going, you keep pushing, you do not leave business unfinished. And I looked around, and I honestly felt everyone in this entire place is thinking about work, and I'm thinking about unfinished business with football. So I was like, yeah, no, yeah. I can't do it now. I can't just quit. So I went straight back into training, straight back into turning it, just turning it on, becoming an animal. And I went on a bunch of trials again. Actually, no, I didn't go on any trials. I just played for that EPSL team to try and get back into full shape. And then for the winter, I was going to get back into, like, full shape. And I ended up hearing from an old coach, the same one who recommended me this agent. He's like, hey, guess what? I'm, like, friends with somebody in Cruzeiro B. And I'm like, whoa, like, Cruzeiro, like, in Brazil? And he goes, yeah, I'm friends with someone in Cruzeiro. I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, I'm down. So it's Serie B Brazil. I know I can't play at that level because that's a crazy level. But if I go there, maybe I go out on loan somewhere. I don't know. I had no idea what would happen. But I went there, and just seeing football in Brazil was like, wow. Like, these guys have so much confidence in football. Just, they'll get a ball that's played to them at like at their hip. They'll take it down. They'll turn it. They'll cut it back and play a diagonal ball 70 yards onto your toe. And you're like, wow. Like, it's crazy, these guys. Like, the absolute level is unbelievable. So seeing that, I was like, yeah, I gotta play. Like, there's no way that I see myself doing anything else besides this. So I did pretty well with the team, but they weren't gonna sign me for the first team, and they don't have a B team. So the oldest age they had was U20, and I was 21. So I was like, listen, whatever, no big deal. I don't mind it. It's cool. This was an experience. This kind of like reignited my fire for football. So after that, I came back. I finished the season with my EPSL team. And I finished the half season with my EPSL team. And wow, I already missed the part. Just before I left for Cruzeiro, NAFC had a tryout. This was very, very important for me because I was like, okay, well, I'm going to show them what they've been missing. So I go, I'm fit, I'm playing well, and we play against their first team. And I play unbelievable. In my opinion, I played great. Like, I think I was one of the reasons why we didn't lose any matches that in that like trial period. So in like the first like 2 days, I'm talking to the director of the team. I'm talking with like the head coach. He likes me. He wants me to stick around. I ask him like, hey, by the way, I know this is like I shouldn't even be like telling you this, but I have a trial for Cruzeiro in Serie B. And he goes, listen, let's be realistic. I don't think you're gonna make it there, but don't tell us no because we want to give you a contract. Don't tell us no before they tell you yes, because you could be ruining yourself here. And you won't have anything like guaranteed there. So just if you come back, we're still here for you. And I'm like, wow, I really appreciate that. I like the way that this is going. So doesn't work out in Brazil, no problem. I come back to what's it called? To NAFC. You know, I'm training, I'm working. I have like no money. I'm working in like a fitness gym that's like nearby my house, like to just try and get some money or whatever. And I'm training at night with like my team. I'm coaching for NAFC's like youth academy. Just like doing like everything to get ready for this New Amsterdam season, like in terms of like finances. And then the league ends up voting New Amsterdam out of the league, out of Nisa. So I was just like heartbroken. I'm like, damn, I just spent like all this like energy and focus and nothing came of it.
Yeah. How did that happen? How did they get like what was the problem?
It's just like basically when owners of leagues and commissioners of leagues don't get along, things happen. Things happen that shouldn't happen for players, basically, yeah. So, like, a whole, like, team of players just kind of, like, has, like, no place to go now. So that was, and that was a bit, like, upsetting, but I still had, like, the connection with the NAFC. So they were, the director, who's, like, now one of, like, my favorite people, like, we're on the phone every day. Like, I'm helping him in Europe right now. Like, the reason why I'm staying in this house right now is because, I'm part of like the organization. I'm a European coordinator for like helping players out with like guidance and stuff in Europe. So like I'm still like very involved in NAFC. They'll be having a pro team in 2024. I would like to stay in Europe, but that's always an option to come back to NAFC. Like I've opened the door to this entire like organization just by like putting myself out there, just driving the nail basically down.
Wow. And so then this is how that came about for this current club that you're on, is through that connection of NAFC. Like you had created a good impression with them and then they wanted to help you out.
basically what he said was like, you're 22. He said like, you're 24, right? And I go, nah, man, I'm 22. And he goes, yo, like you should be playing somewhere. Like you, like I know, like I love coaching. Coaching is unbelievable, but he knew that I'm a player. He knew that I need to be playing somewhere. He's like, listen, if you want to go somewhere in Europe, I'll help you out with it. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, man, absolutely no problem. Like, you've done so much for us here. You deserve it. I'm like, all right, I appreciate it. So he's like, so we have like some places for you to go in Austria, some places for you to go in like a team in Germany, some like lower teams in Germany if nothing happens to you, if nothing like works out. And the first team I go to in Germany, I land. I land with one of the players that NAFC from NAFC's academy. He's 19, and we're trying to like put him in like a good team. So we both try out for the same team. But our first thing for a tryout was a preseason match. We land, and then a day later we go watch one of their matches. Or was it the day of? I think we landed and then we go watch one of their matches. So we're like, wow, okay, this is pretty intense. Like, it's Oberliga, you know? Like, it's pretty good. And a day later, they're like, hey, you guys are going to have a match you're going to play in. Bring your boots to the training pitch. And we're like, whoa, okay, cool. I mean, I'm still, like, jet lagged. I haven't, like, even, like, trained. I haven't touched the ball in, like, 3 days. So I'm like, this could be a disaster, like, a complete other disaster. But I go to the match, and I had, like, the edge of cliff mentality where I'm like, okay, well, if I mess this up now, there's pretty much no way of coming back from having a terrible match. Like, really, realistically speaking. That's your first impression. Your first impression has to be top-notch. Like, the first thing you do on the ball has to be either smart or unbelievable. So the first thing that I did was just take out their captain, the other team's captain. Just take him out the game. Like, completely. And the whole team is like, yeah, I won! And I'm just like, oh, okay, I got these guys. Yeah, we're good. We're good. So after that, like, I'm just, like, playing my game, whatever, doing well. Like, at one point, like, I felt like there was, like, a crowd of, like, 50 people, and I felt them, like, behind me. I'm like, yeah, okay, like, these guys, like, they want me to be on their team now, you know? So I kind of won them over with that, and ever since then, it's just been like, yeah, like, he's the guy. Like, he's the guy. So I love this team. It's honestly, like, unbelievable. The fact that I'm even here after, like, all, like, the absolute, like, for lack of better words, like, crap that I've been through. Like, I'm happy to be at a place that, like, appreciates me. Yeah. It's really nice.
Yeah, it is. It's funny how it comes kind of full circle, too, now being back in Germany, playing at a level that it kind of like, that was, Oberliga was always one that we used to talk about, right? It was like when because we'd have the same conversations all the time, like, exactly, like, because we would go and see Oberliga matches and kind of understand what it was like, and we were like, all right, it's a good level, but, like, we can play there. We can definitely, like, and to see you there doing it, it's cool. And like you said, I think that's a really important part, too, to be somewhere where you feel appreciated, where you feel like what you're bringing to the club is valued. Like, I mean, Bremen's a great city as well, so I'm sure it's a nice pocket of your career right now. That's awesome, man. What I know we've been going for a while. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so we'll kind of end it on this. What do you think are kind of your goals for, this season? For the team, for yourself individually, kind of what are some of the things that you're looking at now, being back in Germany, for your kind of going forward?
I kind of, like, my mentality when I was younger was to try and just, like, big steps, like, huge monumental changes is the only thing that's going to happen. But now it's like, step one, wake up, make your bed, have breakfast, go to training, just step by step, and whatever the little things make the big picture. So just kind of like game by game, training session by training session. But I think, like, my overall plan now has changed to the point where it's like, just make like the small changes in your life, make like the small things the best, optimize everything, and then after that it'll take care of itself. But obviously plan ahead, and so I'm planning after this half season to try and move to a Regionalliga team in the area, which is a possibility. Whatever, we'll see what happens. Maybe like a few years down the line, play for like a third league team. Maybe, again, it's a very big level, but if I keep improving, if I keep getting experience here, I think maybe I can make that jump. And then like maybe like 5 years, 6 years down the line, I'll play for like maybe somewhere else, like incremental steps.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the best way to look at it. Like to just, like we said, focus on the process, and it's the beauty of football that you can't really, because you can't even predict. Like in the same way that we went through your story here today, none of those really points along the kind of map you would have been able to predict for yourself when you were 17 or 18 years old. So it's almost like a fool's kind of errand for us to say, oh yeah, I think it's going to go down like this, this, and this for the next few years. Like you could be playing who knows where in 2 years' time, and that's the scary but beautiful thing about football.
Yeah, you have to have that kind of personality to just be like, well, I'm going to try my hardest, but whatever happens, happens.
Exactly. It's a perfect way to put it. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, man. This was a lot of fun catching up, reminiscing, and talking about your story.
Good seeing you again.
That's going to do it for this week's episode with Evan. Thank you to him for stepping into the 11, sharing his story, wishing him the best of luck with his Oberliga season in Bremen this year. Want to thank all you out there who have continued to listen, and hopefully now we're kind of back on track after we had those couple weeks of a break in there. But we should be good to go, kicking on going forward. Last but not least, the Patreon page. Started to get some support on there. I would greatly appreciate if you could go and do the same, as it is a big thing to help the show and helps kind of all the work that we put into this. I would appreciate it. If not, no worries. I will catch you on the next one, and I'll see you then. Peace.